How we doing there, Kevin?
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, September 26th, 2023 Washington County Board of Commissioners work session. We started with an executive session earlier, and now we are in full open session. This is Chair Catherine Harrington. We're joined remotely with Commissioner Jerry Willey. And here in the room, we have Commissioner Roy Rogers, Nafisa Fai, and Pam Treese. Welcome, Commissioner Willey. Thank you for not sharing your cold with us. We greatly appreciate it.
I kind of figured you'd prefer that I keep my distance today, and I would agree with that. So glad we could do this remotely.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is board and leadership communication. Which commissioner would like to go first? And we asked Jerry to go first. Jerry, would you like to go first?
Sure, Pam. Thank you very much. Last week, I attended the Salmonberry Trail Foundation board meeting. That is the first board meeting I've been into as board member. Our executive director, our chair of our board has had to take a temporary leave for personal reasons. And so they asked me if I would step in, not as chair, but as another board member. So I did that. And there's a lot of planning information that's going on right now at the foundation, not only in just fundraising, but a lot of steps are we have scheduled next week in October that we will begin removing the rails from about 7 miles of that trail out by Buxton. And so that's an exciting first step. And so I'll keep you up to speed on that. It's going to take them about 10 weeks to do that. And we are actually going to make some money in that process. So we've got a company that really wants to work with us and made us a very good deal compared to the other two companies that we met with. This was the only one that was going to be a net positive gain for funding. So that's we were really happy about that. Also attended the Greater Portland Inc. Economic Summit last week, and the guest speaker was Darian Curran, who was the Development Counselors International (DCI). This is a consulting group that GPI has hired to help them and help the region have a better impression of Portland, and how we can kind of turn this around a little bit to be much more positive environment and welcoming for new businesses. The interesting thing is she had a lot of information. I have asked Megan to try and get us the slide deck because they have those, and I never remember the word where they ask you in a word and then they throw all those words together, and the word that's most prevalent is the biggest print on the screen.
Wordle.
What are they called?
Wordle.
Yes.
Word picture. Yeah.
Word picture, I think, is what it is. Anyway, something new this year from what it's been in prior years. Public safety was the number one concern externally looking in, and was the third concern internally looking out. So in other words, those folks that are considering moving to Portland or looking at Portland externally, public safety was their number one issue. And then for the folks that live here, they have some of the same issues, number three in priority. So I've communicated this to Aaron and the sheriff, and just to let them know that public safety is certainly top of mind around the region, and I believe it is with Washington County as well. So I will let you know more about that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Bruce Coleman, who's the Economic Development Manager for Sherwood. He received the Greater Portland Champion Award at that event. So congratulations to Bruce. You're doing a great job. And we appreciate certainly that you've got the commitment to the city of Sherwood and to the region when you do your economic development. So congratulations, Bruce. Went to the Forest Grove Chamber luncheon yesterday. The president of Pacific University was scheduled to be there, Dr. Jennifer Coyle. She was called away at the last minute, so we heard a word from Provost Ann Barr Gillespie. Ann's been with Pacific University for a really long time, and so she did a great job. They have about 4,500 students at their two campuses. They have a campus downtown in Hillsborough and of course in Forest Grove, and they do a great job. They've added a few programs as well. They've seen their attendance numbers go down just like all the other universities, but not significantly. So they're working really hard, of course, to encourage more people to get back into college ranks. Yesterday went with Megan and Aaron Wardell to the Andrea D'Amico property, which is the property that's impacted by Ordinance 882. And they had lots of questions. It was good. We walked up and down the road, walked into the wetlands area. It was very educational. Certainly a shout out to Erin. She does such a great job of handling 100 questions and really presented the county very, very well. So thank you, Erin, for going there. It's a good thing you went, because if they'd asked me any of those questions, I said, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And I'm sure they wouldn't have felt like that was a very productive meeting. So thank you, Erin and Megan, for going with me on that. And it was very good. Had a meeting with Katie Riley at 1 o'clock today that was in person, and I opted out of that, Pam. I know that you were going to be with me there, and so maybe you can give a little information as to how that went. Tomorrow and Friday, I make 2 trips to Wheeler. One tomorrow was the Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency Board Retreat in Wheeler, and we're going to do a little hike, I think, on the Salmonberry, but mostly begin working on what the trail development looks like. And then on Friday is another meeting in Wheeler with the Salmonberry Trail Foundation. It's also a retreat. And so lots of attention to the Salmonberry today. Of course, we have the Clean Water Services dinner tomorrow night, and I will make sure that I am healthy to be there for that, or I won't go, because that's those folks are international, and we certainly don't want to give them any fall cold information. And then lastly, on October 5th, we have a roundtable. I will be working with staff to present a transit lodging tax kind of update and some of the information that I have been working on with staff. And so I look forward to that conversation on the 5th regarding TLT. So that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Treese. Thank you, Commissioner Willie.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie, and happy yesterday birthday. That's why I thought I'd give you the gift of going first. So this week or last week, I attended the Community Action Board of Directors meeting. We looked at the financials, and it was a good meeting. There was a lot of discussion about our contracts and payments and that type of issue. I did get a note from Kemp Shui the next day that the money from the county came through when it was supposed to come through. So very pleased about that. I attended the AOC Legislative and Board of Directors retreat along with Aaron Doyle and Chair Harrington. This past week, we left on Thursday, came back late Saturday night. And I'm going to defer to the chair on the discussion about the membership dues. It was very well organized. It was we had a lot of discussion the first day about board related issues, including the dues structure. But I want to give a shout out to Klamath and to Klamath County for organizing such a nice retreat. It was very well done, and I appreciated it greatly. So the next piece is yesterday we had an MPAC sync up meeting, and that's where I talked with the different people around Washington County that sit on MPAC. Bruce Coleman's name came up there as well. Mayor Tim Rosner was very proud of the fact that Bruce received that award. So I want to make sure that I underscore that, which has nothing to do with MPAC, but nonetheless, it was a comment there. The agenda is an urban growth management engagement update. We have a tolling update, which is going to be short. It's not an in-depth update. It's a short update. Then the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. We will receive an overview of the adoption package and public comments received, and provide feedback on the RTP implementation, any changes to Chapter 8 and the policy topics that have been identified by MTAC for MPAC. And I just want to remind everybody that MPAC reviews the RTP, but it's JPAC that approves the RTP and puts it forward to Metro Council. I did have a meeting with Katie Riley and Larry Crepeau this afternoon. I'm sorry you couldn't be there, Commissioner Willie, and actually we talked about what the purpose of the meeting was, is to look at extending the study that was commissioned by the county in relationship to childcare needs through ARPA dollars and economic development. So I suggested that the real person that she needs to talk to is to you, Commissioner Willie. So that's going to be rescheduled, and I will attend if you would like me to. This week, I told you about the MPAC. I also am attending tomorrow the TriMet Board of Directors meeting in the morning, and then both the chair and I are going to the Metro Garbage Recycling Symposium. We got a great update today from Thomas Eggleston, so I appreciated that. And then tomorrow night is MPAC.
Thank you, Commissioner Treese, and Thomas did thank the board for weighing in at the work session. So other commissioners?
Sure, I'll go next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Last week I had a great meeting with Brett Morgan with Thousand Friends of Oregon, and we had a lot of topics that we covered. One of the topics was Metro Affordable Housing Bond and potentially renewing that bond, and how comfortable. I think sort of like an assessment pulse check kind of a conversation. And then the other conversation we had with Brett Morgan was around the RTP. I think people are gearing up to have a voice around doing things differently this RTP. So there's a lot of conversations that are gearing up. So you'll hear a lot, especially when it comes to impact, and I suppose people will reach out. But in terms of Thousand Friends position, one of the what they were interested was how do we advocate the $1.2 billion project list from ODOT on safety and operations, and how should we unbundle that part? So that was around the conversation. And then the other topic that we discussed with Thousand Friends of Oregon was around, of course, Ordinance 882. As Commissioner Willie covered, a lot of people are interested in seeing the county reject that ordinance. So that was the conversation that we've had.
Is that the North Plains ordinance or is it tile flat?
Yeah, tile flat. 882. Okay. We're calling it 882. I followed Commissioner Willies. Yeah, that's the tile flat extension. So we can. And then last week I had the statewide tolling rulemaking advisory, and one of the big conversation I think people will reach out is, especially this is a topic that WCCC expressed interest in terms of low income tolling and some of the exemptions. WCCC was very vocal about advocating 400% level discount. But I think OTC is considering 200 members of OTC would like to see 200 or less. So I think there might be an opportunity for WCC and Washington County members just to advocate for that if we want to continue.
So you know the position of the board.
Yes. Yeah. But
right.
It's going to be an interesting topic with OTC. And then I had a JPAC last week as well. And JPAC, the media's conversation was around the RTP again. A lot of people called in. And what I heard from the members that were speaking up about the RTP was, if a project is out of compliance with our regional policies, it should not be listed. The other thing was projects should be prioritized according to the greatest deficits in our system. And then the other big vocal advocates were around unbundling this ODOT project list. And then JPAC member had a discussion about what does that unbundling look like? Some members of the JPAC asked if there was a way to understand more about what would be funded from the various project lists without listing each potential project, because I think ODOT said it cannot be done cannot list every project. We need to have that system flexibility and the opportunity to shift priorities and investments where the need is. And Chair Gonzalez, who chairs JPAC, said he would direct Metro staff to work with ODOT to make the buckets more transparent. And then the other discussion that happened was OTC will have a conversation in November meeting. There will be a forecast revenue discussion. There is a potential $70 million that is unallocated, and JPAC expressed interest to put together a letter to submit to OTC, but I'll submit it to our board members so that we can approve. Hello, whole bunch of uniform walked in. Pardon my pause here, just wanted to recognize welcome. So the other meeting around the RTP, staying on topic here, is no more freeways. Folks, we're also advocating, some of the projects that are in the RTP that are constrained versus unconstrained. And people would like to move some projects from the constrained list to the unconstrained. So a lot of those minor details happening. And then lastly, but not least, last week I had my monthly town hall that really went well, and a lot of good conversation and good questions that came. And with that concludes my report. I didn't realize I was running out of time.
Thank you, Commissioner Fike. Commissioner Rogers.
I'd be remiss, Jerry, if I didn't say happy birthday yesterday. I didn't realize that had crept up again. They seemed to happen, but happy birthday. I was mentioning to the chair, I was looking at an article last Friday. There was a meeting in Tualatin, a chamber-sponsored meeting regarding regarding tolling, and that's, as I told you before, a hot issue. Because you all serve on regional committees that are affected by this, you ought to hear what the major issues are. The mayor of West Lynn kept stressing that if you were living in Hillsborough and you were going to Portland, you weren't going to pay a toll. If you live in West Lynn and you wanted to go there, you have to. And he cited 5 tolls. I don't know how he came up with that. Didn't challenge it. We didn't get a chance to ask any questions. It was just all panel. But that's an issue that they're bringing up. So that's some inequities that they're pointing out. There were 6 people on the panel. Susan McLean did a pretty good job. I told her that. I talked to her for a moment afterwards, trying to explain how we got where we are. You had Jules Walters, if any of you know her, from West Lynn, and she was a definite opponent and spoke to that. And the same with Mayor of Tualatin and Mayor of West Lynn, and Travis Bauer was impartial, being with the state. But and Jana Jarvis, I don't know if any of you know her, worked with her, and she said we supported it, but it didn't do anything that we thought we would be doing with the tolls. So the truckers are not happy at this point. So a lot of unhappy people. But one of them is the inequities of where you live. That was a point that they made, plus the mitigation, so that they're pointing out that the amount of dollars put into the pot probably won't even do the mitigation in one little tiny area versus much broader. And they're saying, well, it doesn't solve our issues. So if you're in those regional tables and things come up, so you're forewarned what the issues are. In regard to 882, I'd like to talk about that for 2 seconds. I'm supposed to meet with Mayor Lube. She's got some concerns that she wants to talk with me about, and that's fine. I've always said my interest has always been to find a way out of their development up to Shoals Ferry Road. So 882 was not particularly what I cared about as much as just that you can't all pour down to Roy Rogers Road and then try to get out. You got to get back up to Shoals. I think that there's not going to be a majority of people here the night of that hearing. And so I think it might be a mistake.
We'll have 4.
Oh, I thought there were only going to be 3. I apologize. Okay. What night is it?
The 24th?
Yeah, it's the 24th, and I come back that day.
Okay, I'll be the only one missing then.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're going to be missing?
Yes.
I'm missing.
Yeah, I'll be with Quick and Diane. So that'll be 3, and it happens other than the chair who.
Does it have to be a nighttime meeting?
Madam Chair, that's usually the fourth Tuesday. It's the night meeting. You don't have to.
No, October is a night meeting on the 24th. Does this ordinance need to be at a nighttime meeting?
No, it was continued to a date certain, but it didn't need to be continued to a night meeting. So we could continue again on the 24th if that is the board's preference.
You could continue again to the following Tuesday meeting, which would be November.
Yes, we could make that work if we know now that's the plan.
Is everyone going to be at that first Tuesday meeting in November?
I am.
I know I will. And so will Commissioner Willie.
Okay. Yep, we'll plan for that. Yeah, we did continue to a date certain. So on the 24th, we will need to open the public hearing, take any testimony, and then the board's action can be to bring it back at the following meeting for an additional meeting or additional public hearing and then potential action on the ordinance. And so the recommendation from staff at this upcoming meeting will be to direct staff to engross the ordinance, similar to what we talked about earlier this year, and then to bring it back. And if the direction is to engross and bring it back, that would trigger 2 additional public hearings, one of which would need to be at a night meeting.
I think we have to do it. And I will, for the record, as I'm traveling the day before and not getting in until very late that night with any delays, I could be in trouble as well. And then we'd be down to 2. So,
Am I not even have?
Well, by our code, you need 3
Exactly.
to do the engrossment anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let alone 3 for a meeting.
right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
Yep. Okay. I think we have our marching orders. We'll,
but you'll want to make sure it's clear to the public too.
Yes, we'll work on communicating that too.
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
partners.
and I think we can be very clear in the agenda materials for the October 24th hearing, what's going to happen that night. So,
Terrific.
okay. Thank you all.
Anything else?
No, I thought I might bring that up because I thought the only other things we
Great.
have a bunch of meetings next week. One of them is with the R1 Act, and it's covering their work plan. If you want to know what their work plan is, it's undefined at this point, but it's to inform us about things that they're going to be doing. So once I know what it is, I'll be happy to share with you. So that's it.
Great. All righty.
Chair, I forgot one thing from, I can wait for you after you're done, or I should.
Why don't you wait?
Okay.
Since you'd already used up your 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. So last week was the WCVA Board of Directors. They have gone through all of their rebranding, remarketing. Their tagline is now Explore Tualatin Valley. And you can see some of their new marketing campaigns, certainly on their website and all their social media, but also on the billboard driving north on 217. And I believe we'll have a chance to experience more of it at our District 8 AOC meeting on October 4th because they're hosting us at the Wingspan Event Center. The SHS Oversight Committee meeting was on Monday, and I forwarded to all of you a really excellent memo on collections and distributions that also is a really nice summary of economic conditions. In addition to what is that memo, the standard memo that was in our packet with the monthly tax collection and disbursement update, I wanted to just highlight that they've made 2 changes. You'll notice this, Commissioner Willie, from what you usually look at. Their graphs are no longer cumulative graphs, but are now the bi-month graphs so that we can see the trends since we now have a more stable pattern. The second change is for the tax revenue and tax disbursements. They used to report on a cash basis, but now, since we have 2 years of collections under our belts, the taxes are stabilizing and we're now working on alignment from there. So now they're reporting on an accrual basis of what has been earned, so to speak. So that's the change there. And then that committee's organizing itself to work on its second annual report. As Commissioner Terrace mentioned, she and I and Aaron Doyle attended the AOC Board of Directors retreat that was held on Friday. There was a lot of discussion about the dues model. Half of the area committees, there are 8 different districts. Half of the districts have had their district meeting, so have already gone through the proposed budget. The rest of us haven't. But the agenda item that was on the menu, on the agenda, sorry.
We were kind of on the menu.
We were, yes, we were on the menu because of my raising the flag, as you all well know, about the due structure and the second year of the current contract construct showing that the construct was not as equitable as anticipated. So you've got information on that. We will go over more information at the October 5th meeting because we need to discuss options for covering the $22,000 that we did not pay for this year's. But at the District 4 meeting, we'll also, I assume, will we?
Date.
Yes. The District 8 meeting is on October 4th. I'm really getting tongue-tied over all these dates and numbers. Will we be getting a draft agenda, or is there a draft agenda that we can get?
Yes, you'll be getting it soon.
Okay.
So in fact, I've
terrific.
been talking with Megan and Aaron about that.
Great. Now, the Ledge Committee meeting was on Saturday afternoon, and I was hoping we would move from just conversation to more narrowing of the agenda, but they wanted to have lots of conversation. So lots of conversation has happened, and we're going to need to do our part to ensure that the various steering committees and then the Ledge Committee empowers AOC staff to utilize the principles when it's in between our meetings, but we also have to get our agendas square and settled before the short session and definitely before the 25 long session. And they did make sure to inform all of the Ledge Committee members that the 2025 legislature is expected to deal with a transportation package. You may note on our business agenda today that we do not have action on the Comprehensive Community Strategic Plan, RFP. And that is because I asked that we hold that agenda item until we have discussion at our October 5th roundtable. So we'll have further discussion at that meeting. So that's why if you saw the difference between the rolling agenda and the package for tonight, that's what's going on there. So stay tuned. We'll talk more. So that's it for me. Commissioner Fye, you had round 2.
Well, one last thing for just the board awareness, in terms of discussion that took place on JPAC. JPAC members discussed the idea of a future JPAC subcommittee on regional funding issues. Members generally agreed that having JPAC to discuss regional funding strategy and exploring funding options would be a good idea. No decisions was taking place, but just for your board awareness, I wanted to loop you in on that conversation about subcommittee. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Leadership communication. Hello, Ms. Angie.
Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and board. I want to start with a couple kudos and announcements relative to staff. Recently, Randy Covey, who your board has met, our manager of Washington County Animal Services, and Bonnie Hayes Animal Shelter, was recently recognized for his significant achievements in animal welfare with a Lifetime Contribution Award, which it comes from the Oregon Animal Control Council. So it's always great to be recognized by your peers. I think this is another example just of the talented staff we have across Washington County. So shout out to Randy, the services, and the services of the full Animal Services Division team. Also, update on health benefits. Our benefits manager, Debbie Watkin, has successfully led through all bargaining with our bargaining units to add the additional health insurance plan, which previously I'd sent communications to your board. I just want to commend Debbie and her team for the significant work that this has taken on her team. Also, for all of our employees understanding, if your board may recall, we were looking well above 20% health insurance increase, which would have meant further reductions to services. And with this plan redesign, we're now looking at a 7% increase in health insurance, which is far more manageable for us this year and hopefully sets us on a glide path moving forward. Although health insurance is quite, I'll just say, a volatile and challenging space. We also are moving to requiring that employees do go through the enrollment process every year, selecting their health insurance. This is a best practice, so we will be making this transition. This is another kind of move to ensure that we're containing our health insurance costs, but also providing really resources to employees to ensure that they know what's new in the plans and that they can be actively manage what resources they need for their families. Within your board packet, I did add an item, not for action today, but just for your leisure reading, which I'm sure you all I know you all have time for, but just want to send kudos to our IT department. This is their first annual report that they have published, and it is included within your packet. The report,
Business meeting packet?
it's under the leadership communications.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
So the report covers the department's performance management efforts, infrastructure and operations, information security, digital government, employee empowerment, innovation, and last but not least, financial stewardship. I do want to lift up a quote from our interim Chief Information Officer, Sam Kim. Our commitment to align our strategies with the county's core priorities enabled us to uphold our mission of not only serving the county staff and our community members, but also cultivating a culture that thrives on equity, safety, and sustainability as one Washington County. So I'd invite your board to take the time to review this and just see the amazing contributions of this team. And that concludes my weekly update.
Great. And Ms. Angie will be away starting Thursday, and Aaron Calvert will be covering while Ms. Angie is at the ICMA board meetings and conference. And are any other members of your team attending the conference?
Yes, Marnie Kyle and Megan McKibben will be joining for the first time.
Wonderful. Terrific. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Anderson.
Speaking of being out of the office, International Municipal Lawyers Association meeting starting tomorrow through Sunday. And Adriana Ortega in our office is down there right now. So Courtney Duke Dreesen will be your direct contact here. But I'm also
Thank you for sending the email.
Yes.
And with that, I assumed you were already gone. So poor Courtney's gotten a couple of emails from me the last few days.
Well, she can handle them well. So just two real quick updates. As you may recall, we're have a case before the Court of Appeals right now on the county ordinance that ban flavored tobacco sales, and as you've been notified, Multnomah County had a similar case in circuit court and had a favorable ruling, and we've supplemented our briefing to describe that ruling because we thought it was an accurate ruling. So, and then that case actually has been scheduled out, and it's not even scheduled for hearing until next year. So it's a ways out. But the wheels of justice move slowly, which is challenging for everybody.
Or is it tobacco companies are too big?
Well, we're just
Little
going through the
editorial,
process.
It's a little off track.
We're just going through the process. The other update I wanted to give you real quickly is we've had a breakthrough on the behavioral health financial assistance agreement negotiations. So it looks like we will be able to move forward and have a long-term contract. So good news on both fronts.
You worked through that liability issue.
We have, yes.
Congratulations, and thank you for being a real leader in the whole behavioral health HHS domain, not just for us, but for the state. It's
Thank
made a
you.
big difference.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
That concludes my report.
You'll be back when?
Monday.
Oh, phew, okay.
Yes,
Great.
I will be here Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hello, Diane Taniguchi Dennis, Clean Water Services.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Board of Clean Water Services. So as I'm talking, I'm going to have Mark Jockers come up. But the team has prepared for the rainfall. I mean, fall came a little early, and it was a really good event for the team to get ready on. We did have some disruptions, pump stations that plugged up and different things, but the team did a really good job keeping things in service. And it's a busy week, and Performance Excellence Northwest, their examiners are here that are assessing our performance excellence program. And it's really to provide the team with learning feedback on our initial progress, and we'll make a report to the board on our progress. So many areas, we're probably 50 to 65% of the way we want to be. Many people apply to Baldridge when they're in the 75 to 80 sort of percentile. There's some areas where they scored us low, sort of in the 10 to 20%. And I think it's because we didn't have the business process charts loaded up into our application. So the team is very proud of what they're doing, and this really helps to deepen the understanding of performance excellence. We're really looking forward to that. And then the delegation from Vientiane, Laos, I think they're in the US now, aren't they, Mark?
Yes.
So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good. Thank you. I have three things I wanted to touch base on. One is that our colleagues from Laos arrived yesterday, and some of the other support staff from U.S. Water Partnership and WEF, the State Department, arriving today. Our programming begins officially tomorrow. So we will be out looking at nature-based solutions tomorrow and technology issues on Thursday. We have the dinner tomorrow night at Bethany's table. We've pushed that back to about 5:15. Said 5 o'clock, but I'm telling you 5:15 now. I just think in terms of getting from Forest Grove to that location, we want to make sure we have enough time.
I hope you have rain gear and umbrellas and galoshes for them.
You should see the back of my vehicle right now.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't have galoshes, but I have lots of rain gear for them. So we'll see, and we're going to keep them largely on solid ground, right? We're not going out in the mud.
Okay.
The other thing is we have our board learning on Wednesday and Friday of October 11th and 13th. We'll deliver the packets to you for that on Wednesday, the 4th. Be delivered both electronically and a book. So when you get it electronically, don't print it because you're going to get
Little light reading, huh?
a little light reading. Exactly. And then finally, we learned about 2 weeks ago, and I will say it's a little surprising, but the Bureau of Reclamation is hosting an open house regarding their Safety of Dams project at Scoggins Dam next Thursday, October 5th, from 6 to 8 at the Forest Grove Community Auditorium on Main Street. They will be talking about the Safety of Dams program, the Scoggins Safety of Dams project, the proposed design, which we've seen some of those before. They're just fine-tuned. They were at 30% before. I'm sure they're moving along. And the schedule. This project is theirs now, and it's reflected in, I think, in the level of involvement that they may provide us. The one thing I was very pleased to see is that they are partnering with Washington County Emergency Management with John Wheeler and his staff to talk about emergency preparedness related to earthquake and seismic activity, which when we managed that project, that's what we always led with. You know, we always led with the, how do you take care of yourself? Now we can tell you about what's being designed by the federal government. So that is happening. Now, that said, the federal government is also potentially due to shut down on the 1st of October. So we'll see. I think this would be a classic thing that would not happen should the federal government shut down. So we'll see. We're trying to do what we can to amplify and invite people. We've provided Reclamation with a list of residents that we've worked with on this project over the last 15 years. And hopefully they will be using that to notify people as well. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Send us or your
Yes.
team send us a calendar event for that, assuming we get to go.
I will send you both a calendar event as well as the notice itself.
Oh, awesome.
Because someone forwarded it to me.
I won't be able to get there until later because I have the elected officials meeting with Congresswoman Bonamici.
Good. Thank you.
Great. And I was trying to remember there was some other, oh yes, the rain. Last night I was leaving just before 7 and one of the waves of the rainstorm hit out here. It was really interesting to be standing in front of the double doors right over there and to see it absolutely pouring rain. And all of a sudden the gutters from the rooftop pour down out of that wonderful brass spigot for it to go from almost nothing to a gusher. It was really interesting because then you know where the water flows? Towards the door. Facilities might want to check and make sure that door is sealed at the bottom. It wasn't sealed when I finally left to go out. And there was quite a puddle out there. But it was pretty impressive though. I mean, wow, we definitely had a cloud burst last night. I was glad we didn't have major winds. Alrighty, does anyone have any questions on the formal agenda for tonight's meeting?
Just the proclamation.
Just the proclamation on the ban the books?
Mhm.
What is your question about the proclamation?
I guess it doesn't, in my mind, doesn't square up with the summary. Maybe I'll just make my comments. I'm torn. I'll just tell you all, I'm really torn on supporting this. There are things that I really don't like to see in libraries, like pornography. I don't like to see things that are hate speech. I don't like to see things that pick any group and discriminate against them. And it seems pretty open to me. I mean, you could do any of those. So
No, I think there are standards.
that's
That-
what I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Lisa can speak to
That would be helpful.
the standards that the library associations work with. As you can see, in the 6th whereas with regard to propaganda and misinformation. But Lisa can also speak to that as part of the presentation of the proclamation.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could do that. So it'd make it easier to understand.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Short question I had.
Yep. Terrific. All righty. Great. Then we will move on. We're just about on time. Our next topic is regarding the appointment of Undersheriff Caprice Massey as the interim sheriff. So thank you, Sheriff Garrett and Ms. Massey for, I don't have your proper title to call you out right now, which is my fault. Well, you're not the undersheriff yet. So I'm going to stop there while I'm ahead. But just thank Sheriff Garrett, not only for everything you do, but also for really cultivating your command staff over the many years of service as you've been our sheriff. And we always know you have an excellent top drawer management team.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Take it away.
So I'll set the sheriff up for this one. As you know, the sheriff has submitted his letter where he is going to step down as of November 30th. And so it's your role as the Board of Commissioners to appoint a new sheriff. As you know, there is an election in May for a new sheriff as well, but we need a sheriff in between.
We sure do.
Yes, critical. And so our Washington County Code 2.2605 describes in general the appointment process. It's really a vague provision that basically says you will appoint a person within 60 days of the vacancy. So what we've set up for you today is an opportunity for the sheriff to describe his recommendation for how to proceed. And then we have an item on the agenda for next week for an appointment, depending on where your board wants to go. So take it away, Sheriff.
Thank you, Brad. Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. By way of introduction, as I recently shared with you, my father passed away last June. The needs of attending to my mother have become such that I'm really required to transition my primary focus to her. And after long discussions and consideration with my family, with our leadership team, and some discussion with you, I have decided to retire, as Brad shared just now. And I recognize by law and charter, the duty is 100% your duty to appoint an interim. And I respectfully and strongly recommend it is Undersheriff Caprice Massey. So momentarily to continue to develop her professionally, we did promote her to Undersheriff. I just want to briefly highlight what underpins my recommendation. And then she has some thoughts that she'd love to share as well. Undersheriff Massey graduated from both the state police or law enforcement academies, so she is accredited in both police and corrections. She served as a commander for both the jail and patrol divisions, becoming the senior leader with the greatest breadth and depth of knowledge in both our jail and patrol operations, except for Undersheriff John Cook, who will continue in his role as Undersheriff when the interim sheriff is appointed. And then along with our two chief deputies who are joining us in the room today, our leadership team will continue to move forward. Undersheriff Massey served 17 years in the jail at every uniform rank, addressing issues like project management, division level budget preparation, handling the personnel issues that come your way when you're running a 24/7 very dynamic operation, along with team building. In recruiting. She actually has experience in recruiting. So those are two really big topics right now, jail operations and recruiting. She recently graduated from the 10-week FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia, a professional development program for law enforcement leaders. And this fall, she graduated from the Western Oregon State University with honors, earning her bachelor's degree in criminal justice. She continues to invest in strong relationships with stakeholders and our partners across the county. And like many of us in this room, before serving her community, she served her country, serving 9 years in the Navy, and then having 4 years of experience with the Norfolk Sheriff's Office in Virginia. We have prepared a list of actions to legally transfer the authority from sheriff, and I'm happy to go into that. But before I do that, I would just offer Sheriff Massey some time.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to join you today so that we can discuss this. I'd love to share with you some of my priorities for this next season and my motivations a little bit, and then give you an opportunity to ask any questions of us or me. Knowing that the jail is the only adult detention facility for every municipality in the county, we must prioritize the retention of our exceptional certified and non-certified professionals and our recruitment efforts to get more people through that door so that we can get back to having a fully functioning jail. I think that's the greatest contribution right now toward public safety in our community. As the sheriff said, I believe that relationships are primary. And it's going to be critical as we work on the office-wide budget review and preparation over this next season. Increased collaboration and relationship building with the Washington County Police Officers Association and our strategic plan. We are continuing the work with implementing the use of force reviews from our police recommendations. And we've made some really great headway, but we have to continue that process. We are accountable to our community to provide a public safety service that maintains and continues to build trust. I will maintain our organizational pillars of accountability, excellence, transparency, ensuring that we continue to have our national accreditation for law enforcement and jail healthcare. I recognize that y'all don't know me as well as that you know Sheriff Garrett. And we have some challenges ahead of us, but I'm excited to meet those challenges. Whether it was during my 9 years of service in the Navy or my 23 years in law enforcement or at home, I have consistently answered the call to serve, and this would be no different. I find extreme nobility in the service that we provide to our community. And with that, I look forward to answering any questions you might have of me.
Well, let me assure you, Undersheriff Massey, that Sheriff Garrett has only had 5 years to get to know me and work with me. 2.5 so far with Commissioner Fye. Similar, well, with Commissioner Willie being a former mayor, I guess there's more years there, and Commissioner Terrace as the Economic Development Director for Westside Economic Alliance. But of course, no one can compare to Commissioner Rogers' tenure.
How long have we known each other? 20 years or better?
Yep,
Better.
yep. So don't worry, it's totally doable. Yes, yes. Commissioners, do you have any questions at this juncture or comments? I don't know if there's more that you wanted to speak to.
Chair Harrington, no, other than if you're interested to hear a little bit about kind of the transition requirements that we have, but that's something that we can.
Great, we'll get to that next.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Commissioner Terrace.
Undersheriff Massey, I'm very excited that you're interested in this position and that you're looking forward to this. I would ask you to share with us what your family support is in relationship to this new opportunity.
That's a great question. I have 3 daughters, some really incredible age differences, 28, 12, and 11. And the 11 and 12-year-olds still like me, so they're really excited about this.
That'll change.
Very exciting.
Knows.
Yes. And, but the backbone of my support comes from my spouse, David. He's a 9th grade high school teacher. He also is committed to service, and he's been the person that has consistently reinforced in me that I need to continue to serve. I think the best compliment I've ever had is that he shared with me that I've made him a better person and make him want to serve. And so I'm really fortunate in that they all think they know what they're getting in for, and they're all pretty excited about it.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Commissioner Willie, do you have any questions at this juncture?
No, I don't think I have any questions either. I'd just like to say thank you, Undersheriff Massey, for taking the time to meet with me last week, and certainly most appreciative of Sheriff Garrett for his vision of transition. We all know how important that is. You know what a supporter of public safety is at every turn for me, and so I just appreciate how delicate and how strongly you have handled this transition. So thank you very much, both of you, for your service.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Fye?
I was surprised Commissioner Willett didn't mention the Navy connection between Undersheriff Massey and I don't have any questions for you. I'm really excited I just wanted to say that you're walking into big shoes. You're going to be filling big shoes here. And I really appreciate your leadership, Sheriff Garrett. You've been an amazing sheriff for Washington County and as a resident and now as an elected to getting to work with you. And I think, not only you're a law and order kind of guy because you have to, but you do it with compassion. And I really appreciate that. As a community member, benefited that. And as an elected here too. So you'll be missed, but I think you really picked a historic person to fill your role here, and I'm here for it to work with you and look forward to collaborating. And it just shows the leadership in the room from the sheriff's office that this is you're making the right move, and not only a move that is the right one, but a collaborative move by a demonstration of the people that are here in uniforms, which is what I was referring to when I was given. It's not scary. It was just it startled me to see a lot of people in uniforms, but it just shows to the collaborative decision you're making here that to transfer power here in a peaceful way and in a way that would work for everyone. And look forward to whenever that decision comes to, I look forward to supporting that.
Thank you. And that continuity of leadership is going to be really good. That teamwork that we have, that the sheriff put in place, is going to provide some really brilliant continuity, not just for the office, but for our community.
We'll hear more about that in a moment. Commissioner Rogers.
Well, my first comment would be to you, Pat. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years. This was pretty abrupt. I knew you were going to leave as I am at the end of 24. I didn't realize it'd be the end of 23. So thank you for your service. You've done great. And I know prior boards would say the same thing. You've just been stalwart in terms of transparency, working with the public. And so we'll miss you. And my second comment would be to John. He had been grooming a long time. It's unfortunate that he had some family situations, and we wish him the best and hope that those things will work out. I have really no reason not to support you. I met with you in my office in Tigard. You certainly have all the credentials. I have to be very honest with you because I've been say to the public, I never like setups. I mean, they always seem like it ought to be a very open process. Then I said, well, but this is transition. It needs to be done, and the sheriff has done it well. And so with that in mind, at first I kind of go, well, that doesn't seem very fair. We just ought to open it up, but then you're so qualified and you're ready to go. And there's not a doubt in my mind that you'll do probably better than that guy. And so that's my hope, and we're going to sing your praises for many years. So thank you. That's all I got.
Well, let me start with Sheriff Garrett. You are an awesome sheriff. In my 33 years of living here in Washington County, I've had the opportunity to be in the community with each of Spindell, Gordon, yourself, and I just think you're stellar. And I appreciate how you and your team work in partnership with us and with more to come with the Public Safety and Justice paper October 10th, and really shoring up the whole ecosystem because there are many parts. I've learned a lot these last not quite 4.5 years. My learnings continue, but I feel blessed to serve on this specific Board of Commissioners because we are fully embracing the challenges and needs and are committed to continue to work in full partnership along with our County Administrative Officer, Ms. Angie. So while Sheriff Garrett has established a new base of big shoes to fill, Undersheriff Massey when you're sheriff, I know you will create your own shoe line. It's not a matter of filling his shoes. It's about creating your own line. So,
That's a good quote.
Yeah, that's
Great.
good.
Yeah.
In sheriff lingo, I learned yesterday that the dual police and corrections accreditation is part of that dual certification support. See, I learned. But I also, to your point about having interims prior to an election, you know, having an interim sheriff is unlike having any other elected at large position in Washington County or in other communities. Because when there is an open election for the sheriff, it creates a lot of angst because of, compared to other district-wide elected leadership positions, because of the realm of responsibility that a sheriff has, but also here in Washington County, a sheriff has more than just a county jail, more than just rural patrol. There's also the urban patrol, all of the specialty teams that we have here in Washington County. We have something really special here in Washington County with our public safety and justice ecosystem. So towards my point that the sheriff election is more than just any other elected leadership position. Certainly there's, you can compare it just to the county chair position. The sheriff has to have credentials, as we've talked about. The time in role is not just, 2 years residing in Washington County is different than time in the role in a sheriff's department. Okay. But also, I don't, as the county elected chair, I don't manage a department. Thank God. Been there, done that. Have a county administrator that manages the organization, but the sheriff manages a significantly large department. And so I am grateful for all the skills that are required of a Washington County sheriff. And I know that through this interim sheriff appointment that we will have those bases covered. I am going to have a little difficulty because I had the opportunity to meet Undersheriff Massey personally a few years ago, and I have 3 years of calling her Caprice under my belt. So I'm
Big shift. Big shift, Chair Harrington.
got to get it straight, Undersheriff Massey. So I'll work on that. So we really do need an interim sheriff that will work in partnership with us, given the follow through that's needed in repairing the current jail. I've been walking on eggshells since knowing of the HVAC and roof problems from last September. I don't want to wake up anytime in the next 2 years until the construction is done, knowing that there's the potential for hot water to come down on our employees or adults in custody. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, folks, but that's my reality. And I also know that we have the second smallest jail, and I'm grateful that we approved a budget for this current fiscal year to support the planning for an expanded jail, and we're anxious to get that going. I know Aaron Calvert is chomping at the bit on that, so away we go,
so to speak.
Yes, turn a phrase, sorry. So we've got a lot going on. It's going to be a great paper and going from there. So keeping the whole ecosystem working together for the betterment of our community. And I know here in Washington County that our residents, businesses, and voters really support public safety. So there we have it. We have a local option levy referral to get working on too.
Can I just comment,
Yes,
just for
please.
members of the public, just really appreciate the board's leadership in executing very quickly on the critical facilities. And for members of the public who may have been listening, we are working with all speed possible to get those repairs underway. Facilities and the sheriff's office work in very close partnership to ensure that we have safety for employees, as well as our adults in custody. So I just want to provide that assurance. And we actually, right now, the project does expect to be completed sooner than we had originally envisioned, which we recently reported to your board.
Yep. So I know our team's working on it, and our facilities team is great. Our buildings have been well maintained. We just have a whole bunch of end of life systems, and contractors are working on it. So let's get it done. And we, the sheriff knows this board has been fully supportive of efforts to help retain, but also recruit the additional staff that's needed. And we're just going to press forward on all those needs. So you were going to inform us a little bit more about what it is like to help onboard a sheriff and all the ins and outs there.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. Just real briefly, it's really around inventories. We have, as you know, a lot of property to support a sheriff's office of about 550 staff currently. And a lot of that property is sensitive property, like tasers, vehicles, radios, all manner of secure communication. And so we are just beginning to inventory all of that property so that when the interim sheriff comes in, that the interim sheriff is confident about what she is signing for. We also have a significant amount of criminal evidence, and we are planning a stem to stern inventory of all of our criminal evidence. Good fortune has it that our annual inventory of all of our evidence is scheduled for November. It happens every November. So the timing could not be better. Some preparations require the interim sheriff to be identified. So this is really helpful. And that is preparing staffos for the incoming sheriff, review all commissions and their scope just to make sure that the incoming sheriff is comfortable. I think that'll be a pretty easy review, but we do need to review all of our commissions. And just prepare all our policies for the signature. As you know, we are nationally accredited. It may seem like a bit of a nuisance, but the actual sheriff needs to sign all of our policies and administer the oath to our staff. So that we're getting ready to do that as well. And then the rest of our transition is really about relationships, as Undersheriff Massey said. So the relationships are primary, and so we're going to deepen the relationships that we have. That she has done a great job to build. And then establish those that we need to establish. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am for your generous remarks just a few minutes ago. We, Undersheriff Massey, I know that she and I think alike that what success the sheriff's office has is really about our staff and the great work that they do. So thank you for your support to our staff and to us. And that's all I wanted to share.
I can't imagine how many just internal meetings you have each month, but also the external ones, right? The Association of Sheriff, the Oregon Association of Sheriffs, just across the region, with police chiefs, as well as across the metro region and so forth. So I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to take action on this appointment in the near term so that we can do what we can to give you the largest overlap possible.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I have one more comment?
Sure.
And this is to you, Pat, and I made this in my office to you, and I'm sincere about it. Transition is very hard. It takes a while, and you don't have a long guide path. So I would hope that our new sheriff might find in the budget, and you'd find it in your heart, to be hired back a little bit. Not that the rest of the board would agree to this, but I'm just speaking for me. To keep the focus on not only the levy that's coming up, but the accreditation that you're going to have to go through again. There's a lot of things. I mean, you're walking out with a lot of experience and trying to impart, no matter how qualified the new sheriff is, that's a lot to say. I'm walking out. Good luck with it. I've given you a week to, what more do you need? I mean, that's really tough because in any business thing, in your business, but any business things comes up periodically throughout the year. It doesn't all come up at once. So I hope that you have a great retirement, but maybe we might get to utilize some of your talents a little bit. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner Teresa.
When we started this round, I thought we were asking questions of Undersheriff Massey, so I didn't, I asked her a question. I just want to also extend my appreciation to Sheriff Garrett and to let you know that whenever my phone rings and it says Sheriff Garrett on it, I smile. So, and I hope that I get a few more of those calls.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Willie or Commissioner Fye, did you have anything more you wanted to share at this juncture? Just since.
No, but the question came up to me because I know you're part of the Building Bridges group. Is the future sheriff going to take over your role for that, or is that?
Yes, the Commissioner. Thank you for
Because
the
you're
question.
very active on that.
Right. And she's coming to our October 26th event about bias, addressing criminal bias and incidents. And I was just on the phone with Brother Wajdi yesterday about that. So that is underway as well. Thank you.
Yep. And while I appreciate Commissioner Rogers commending you on your years and decades of experience and encouraging a transition over time and the sharing of your knowledge in the planning efforts that we have ahead of us. I also know that in my 2 elected official roles, I've dealt with the elderly transition and deaths of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and the transition of my mother. So I also support your doing what you need to do. So I just wanted to bring voice to that so that you heard both encouragement from the commission. That's all. So
Thanks to all of you.
great. So action on the agenda next Tuesday meeting.
Correct. Yeah. And
Yes.
and the thing you're not seeing is, everybody's calm and collected, but 24/7 operation, the transition, they're working on it really hard right now.
Yep.
So
And I know
it's like the duck, calm on the top,
Yep, lots going on.
lots going on below.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you to the support that I see in the room as well for you
Yep.
both.
Terrific. Take good care. Thanks again. Keep up the good work too.
Feel pretty safe.
I know, right?
All righty. So we are right on schedule and we're going to talk about Ordinance 897. Oh, I'm getting them straight finally. River Terrace 2.0. I just can't remember whatever the number is going to be for North Plains. So, right? Three of them coming up before the end of the year.
It's hard to keep them all straight. Yes.
I'm terrible with names and numbers. So, welcome, Erin and Teresa. Please take it away.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I'm Erin Wardell, Planning and Development Services Manager. And Teresa Cherniak, Principal Planner in Community Planning. And we are here today to give the board an overview of Ordinance number 897, the River Terrace 2.0 Urban Growth Boundary Expansion. So the purpose of our briefing today is to give you an overview of the content of this ordinance and a little bit of the history behind it. And then the desired outcome is to obtain any board feedback or questions you may have in advance of your October 3rd hearing. The policy questions we'll come back to at the end of the presentation are, does the board have any questions for staff? And do you have any feedback or guidance for that hearing? So a little bit of background on this. Earlier this year, Metro Council approved their first urban growth boundary land swap. This is a mechanism for expanding urban growth boundaries that has been used elsewhere in the state of Oregon, but it had not been used by Metro previously. Metro identified an area of land in Clackamas County to be removed from the urban growth boundary of approximately the same size as the amount of land adjacent to the city of Tigard to be added to the urban growth boundary. So you may hear staff refer to this as an expansion. It is an expansion within Washington County, but the size of the metro urban growth boundary remains essentially the same.
I hadn't realized that there was a little bit other than just out in the Damascus area. So thank you for calling my attention back to that map.
It is interesting. So there's a piece of land in the Damascus area and then a piece of land near Oregon City. And so those combined are about the same size as the areas near Tigard. Last week, we were here talking with City of North Plains staff about the North Plains proposed urban growth boundary expansion, and we saw this same table on one of our slides. So last week, we talked about the first row, which is a city UGB expansion outside of Metro. Today, we're talking about the second row, which is a city UGB expansion within Metro. And the important takeaway from this table is that when the urban growth boundary is expanded, when Metro expands the urban growth boundary, Metro is the decision maker, and then it is acknowledged by the state. So the county does not have an explicit decision-making role in the process of the UGB expansion. We do have comprehensive plan policies that require us to then update our plan documents, but the decision was made by Metro Council and decided by the state or acknowledged by the state. This is a timeline of what was about a 2-year process to make this happen. So in October of 2021, your board sent a letter of support for Tigard's River Terrace 2.0 concept plan. Tigard then asked Metro Council for a mid-cycle urban growth boundary expansion. Metro Council directed staff to do an analysis of that proposal, and they determined that rather than do a traditional expansion, they would use the land swap methodology. And so that took a while to get to the point of identifying land to be removed and making the final decision. And so that was done earlier this year in January. In May, it was acknowledged by the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And then one decision point that's not up here yet is that your Planning Commission recommended approval of this ordinance last month.
Is it normal, Erin, for November 21 to November 22, like a whole year? What happened in there?
It was longer than we thought it was going to be. We expected the mid-cycle decision to actually be made in 2021. And so the process took quite a bit longer than staff had expected. Part of that was, I think, making the decision on whether to do the mid-cycle expansion or whether to do the land swap. And so that required some additional technical analysis that Metro wouldn't have done otherwise. And then I think the hearings process just took longer than it typically would have taken.
Metro had never done a land swap before, so they had to create a lot.
And it was sensitive.
It was sensitive, yes. So it took a little bit of additional work. So it really did take a long time. And we watched that all happen. So here we are today. So the county ordinance on the UGB expansion. While the county does not have a decision-making role in the process, we do have language in our comprehensive plan that requires us to react to it by updating our plan documents to reflect that the urban growth boundary has been changed and that we need to update references in our plan documents and make some other changes. So there are 3 different points that we implement into our plans. The first is to accept Metro and DLCD's decision that the UGB is now expanded. We move the area from rural to urban and apply an urban land use holding zone to the land. And then we make corresponding changes to our rural and natural resource plan, our comprehensive framework plan for the urban area, and then the Bull Mountain community plan. And this was identified in a tier 1 task in our planning work program. A little bit more information about the interim land use that we apply to these areas. Metro's comprehensive plan documents require interim protections for land that's added to the urban growth boundary. Essentially, what this means is they want it to stay as it is today, and any development that may occur before it can be annexed into a city and developed needs to be minimal and not preclude any of the urban development occurring in the future. Washington County's comprehensive plan therefore requires us to apply the future development 20-acre district to all land brought into the urban growth boundary. This also transfers our Goal 5 resources and other designations from the rural natural resource plan into the comprehensive framework plan and into the Bull Mountain community plan. So a number of associated plan changes to reflect that this land is now urban. So back to our policy questions. Does the board have any questions for staff, or do you have any feedback in advance of our October 3rd hearing?
Commissioner Willie, can we start with you?
No, I don't have any questions. I've read through this presentation. I, like you, Chair, was interested in the land swap and where it came from and where it went, but the overall is that the net results are the same. So I'm comfortable with this presentation. Thank you, Aaron.
How about you, Commissioner Rogers?
I've always thought that somehow this and our ordinance 882 said align better. If one looks back at those maps and blow them up, you can see tile flat really does. It's very close, obviously, to this new boundary. I don't know what Tigard is proposing, but in any case, whatever they do affects 2 of our county roads. And so I'm not sure, without a transportation plan understanding, how it all works. I've been supportive. I think it's a good swap and all that sort of thing. And Tigard's enthusiastic, but I've never understood that. And maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't. Maybe nobody has an answer, but it just seems like it's not good planning if you just add a whole bunch of things into the boundary, a whole bunch of building, and you have no transportation facilities designed to accommodate them.
Right. So I do see them as working together. We've had an ongoing coordination with the city of Tigard as they've moved through their planning process for River Terrace 2.0, not just for the western part, but for the southern part to the east of Roy Rogers and north of Beef Bend. And that also has included our partners at Clean Water Services, because dealing with stormwater and sewage is important too for these areas. So we've had ongoing conversations about provision of infrastructure to these growth areas. Tigard's River Terrace 2.0 concept plan does show the tile flat extension similar to Ordinance 882. Our county's adopted urban planning area agreement with City of Tigard also references the need for a tile flat extension and provision of transportation infrastructure within their expansion area. So these are ongoing conversations with city staff as they move through their process.
So, excuse me if I just follow up. If this board says that tile flat doesn't make any sense because of the topography, the wetlands, what's the answer? I mean, we don't have a solution to get to the north out of there, or is there an alternative backup plan, or is there nothing?
I think that it would be challenging from a transportation network perspective not to have that connection, or at least not to be thinking in the long term, 20, 30 years from now, what do we need in our transportation system? So I think it would complicate those decisions, and I think it could lead to some development occurring in ways that are impactful on county roads in a way that could have been avoided.
You're restating what pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still drawn that that's not the way we design things. We design them to work. And so if tile flat doesn't work, is there an other alternative, something that would get us to Shoals? And I don't see it on anything. Maybe when I meet with Heidi, they might have something else. That's been my only question on 882 as well as this. How does it work?
So let's go back to process.
Sure, please.
So Tigard has gone through their concept planning process for River Terrace 2.0, and now they still have to go through their comprehensive planning process. So they do have the opportunity to design the area of River Terrace 2.0 to go up to Shoals Ferry Road without, I'm trying to really ask this as a question, though I haven't phrased it as a question, but my understanding is that they have the opportunity to go through the comprehensive planning in a way that doesn't make them solely reliant upon Roy Rogers Road, which is the concern that you expressed earlier. It's a small matter of planning.
They're just starting their comprehensive plan process now, and that will take generally about 18 months to 2 years to get through a comprehensive planning effort. And so we'll continue to work with the city and we'll continue to talk to them about various options. They do have plans for, it's a little bit difficult with the semantics and I don't have the right maps because we weren't talking about Ordinance 882 today, but
They already have one access point on Shoals Ferry Road in their concept.
the Mountainside Road extension would be the north-south connection, and that is
So that is in the Board of Commissioners October 5th, 2021 meeting packet that is fully available on the Washington County website.
I don't
I'm-
disagree. It's
I'm a
just-
search person.
It's just very confusing. I mean, it's just, they're asking to do the plan. We're rushing ahead with 882 and it just doesn't seem like it's coordinated, but that's just me, right? Seems like we would have coordinated, not done anything until we coordinated with them.
Well, guess what? With our process, this ordinance would come before us October 3rd, and that other ordinance would come to us and is coming to us October 24th. So they are sequenced out.
But we don't know what Tiger's gonna do.
We know what they currently have in their adopted concept plan. And we do need to give them time to go through their comprehensive plan. They already told us that their River Terrace 2.0 planning does not rely upon a tile flat road extension. So we needed to take them at their word. So we're doing things in a logical and sound manner.
And we'll continue to coordinate with City of Tigard as they go through their process. We have a seat at the table in their technical advisory committee meetings, and we'll be bringing back more information to the board.
Thank you. I always thought planners were methodical. I'm finding out accountants are even worse. We always say, well, we want it all figured out, before we jump into something, but okay.
It's sometimes a bit of an iterative process and there's some back and forth, and that's how this one has gone.
Commissioner Treese or Phi?
First of all, thank you. And I recognize that this is about the expansion here. And I understand what you're saying, but I think it's important to stay focused on that ordinance and through MPAC and through other areas, I've been aware of what's happening and I understand the timeline that you followed. So I'm in support and I appreciate your diligence in pulling all these pieces together.
Aaron, I just have a quick question. The slide before this, and great presentation so far. I think it was pretty straightforward. But I think I didn't quite comprehend the two first bullet points, or the first sentence and second sentence. And I'm wondering if you could help me educate me on this. Metro rules require interim protections until further planning for urbanizations. And then, so what is that? Those two sentences, what do they mean?
So Metro's rules, as far as the interim protections, mean that essentially they want us to apply a holding zone. They want things to stay exactly the way they are today until City of Tigard, in this case, can complete their comprehensive planning and then begin to annex the area so that any development that occurs waits until it's fully ready to urbanize and be a part of the city. Now, in the holding zone, you can do some things. So if there's, let's say, a farming activity and they need to put up a pole barn right now, they'll be able to do something like that. So you can do some minor development within the FD20 area, but essentially it says, keep doing what you're doing, but keep this the way it is today while the city completes their planning process.
And how does that correspond then to 882? I was trying to track that conversation.
It doesn't really. So the interim zone is a land use holding zone. It doesn't really say anything about the comprehensive planning process itself or planning for infrastructure within the area. So that's more a part of, while we have it in the holding zone, Tigard is moving forward and doing their comprehensive planning and we're participating in that effort with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Treese?
I've already,
Oh, you've already gone and I,
but Commissioner Willie has not.
yes, he has. Oh, he started us off.
So
So
long ago.
I'm last. Do I have any questions? Nope. I'm all set. I don't mind asking though, has Tiger's position remained consistent
On
on River Terrace 2.0? Or have they sent staff any other letter?
I'm not aware of any additional communication. They've really been working out, sorting out the funding for their comprehensive planning efforts. So we've met with them on almost a monthly basis, although I think we took a little bit of the summer off in those coordination meetings as they've been working on their scope and schedule and budget and all that for the work they'll need to do for their comprehensive plan. They received a grant from Metro and they've been looking for some other funding as well in order to do that work. So once that fully kicks off, we'll have more of an update. We expect the concept plan will change somewhat as they move into comprehensive planning, as usually happens, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you how long we should expect the comprehensive planning to take, but you already answered that.
Yeah, I think about 18 months to 2 years, but I haven't seen their final scope, schedule, and budget on their plans for that. I do know that they would like to move it forward very quickly. They've been doing a lot of development work in River Terrace 1, the original River Terrace area, and they feel ready for more. And so they've approached us already and started talking about annexation and what that could look like for this area.
Yep. And 4 of the 5 board members had the opportunity to see the stormwater and stream side restoration that they built out as part of River Terrace 1.0. And that was really impressive. And I imagine they'll, excuse me, continue that fine work with River Terrace 2.0.
It is very impressive what they've done.
Yep. Yep. So I'm ready to move forward with the October 3rd public hearing. Right. Okay. Terrific. Thank you very much for all of the fine planning work that I know the 3 of you have put into this. So great. All righty. So we've come to the end of our work session agenda today. Is there anything else that folks wanted to have us cover before we close out today's work session?
We're ahead of schedule.
So we will reconvene at our business meeting at 6:30. So this work session is hereby adjourned. Thank you.